Hello, my name is Geogen and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be going through the questions that you submitted on the 100 subscriber video special, or one of the specials that will be coming up. This is the second special video for that 100 subscriber milestone. I think we're at 211 at the time of me recording this, so that's amazing. Thank you once again. We'll be doing the questions in a random order, but we'll begin with VNS. VNS says, "Great video, it really put a smile on my face to see how proud and happy you were to have reached the 100 subs mark. Anyway, my questions are the following. What do you study? How much time do you spend playing games? And do you play other games, except the ones you put up on the channel? He noticed a few other games. I am interested if you play something just for yourself." He is from Greece, which he prefers as Hellas, as it's its real name. Right, so that's 3 questions there, VNS. What do I study? I am at university studying history, and history of course is a very large and broad subject. I can't study all of history, it would take me far too long, and I would never be able to complete it. Obviously there are so many different cultures and civilizations that have passed and are present in the world today, but anyway, I have studied several different things. In my first year of uni I studied Russian history from 1860 up to 1960, so the last 3 Tsars and then the Soviet period, or the early Soviet period. I've studied Vietnam, I've studied the French Revolution, I've studied all kinds of things, but mostly in the modern bracket. This year I'm studying Chinese history and Latin American history from 1800 onwards really, and that's quite interesting so far. I quite enjoyed the Chinese stuff because I don't really know much about China, and it's quite interesting to see, although a lot of it, to be honest, is, well, very violent. So there you go. I hope that answers your question to some extent. How much time do I spend playing games? I play every day pretty much. I've spent a disgusting amount of my free time in video games over the years. Before I got a PC, or a good PC like the one I have now, I used to spend a lot of time playing on consoles, on like handheld consoles like a Nintendo DS, things like that. I was a huge Pokemon fan. I still like Pokemon, but I don't really play it that much. On console, I was a PlayStation fan. I had all the PlayStations other than the latest one, the PlayStation 4, and that was, well, I might get one in the future, but not for now anyway. On the PlayStation 3 I used to play a lot of shooters and adventure games, so the Call of Duty series, the Battlefield series, the Uncharted series, if you've heard of that game, all kinds of things really. In terms of PC, I do play other games other than World of Tanks, Armored Warfare, and World of Warships that I put on the channel as a regular basis. Before I got much interest in my channel, I did put up other videos including Worms, Hotline Miami, the odd, I think there's one Call of Duty video on there. But anyway, that was before I knew what I really wanted to put up on the channel. I messed around with the format a little bit. I did long videos, I did short videos, I uploaded every single day, but I realised this wasn't going to be working when I went back to uni. I started the channel before I went back to uni. It was in the time period before, so it's like in my time off in the summer kind of thing. When you go to uni in the UK, you have such a long time off. For instance, the Christmas break coming up is 4 weeks, but I'll be doing some work then. But I'll still do videos as I enjoy it immensely. Other games, let's see. Recently I've been playing Fallout 4. I mean, if anyone is a fan of Fallout, it's a very, very good game. A very big game at that, and they'll probably add DLC eventually, and I might buy that when it goes on sale. But that will add quite a bit to the game, as it did in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. I preferred New Vegas to Fallout 3 purely because I never played Fallout 3 on console where it was designed really, and the PC variant of Fallout 3 didn't really work on Windows 7. It was designed for Windows Vista and before, so it kept constantly crashing and the like. Yeah, so I do play other games, various other games in my Steam library. I've got a horrendous amount of games, but if you enjoy something, and why not, essentially. I do play other games for another reason, and that's because if I just played World of Tanks, World of Warships, Armed Warfare, I would be bored to death with them. If you overplay something, if you've overplayed something, then you know the feeling I'm getting on about. And of course, I almost forgot the upcoming release that I am looking forward to a lot, and that is Star Wars Battlefront. That game will be fantastic, even if the pricing, and it is developed by published by EA, and everyone knows EA's track record. So, VNS, thank you for those questions. I hope I answered them to some extent. Let's have a look at what another one of you has to say. The next question comes from Spencer Bourne. He asks, he says, "Keep up the good work, I really enjoy your videos and I really like your commentary. My question is concerning World of Tanks. What is your guilty pleasure / seal clubbing tank, the one that you know you shouldn't, but you love to play? Thanks, I live in California, US." Well, Spencer, there are several different tanks that I like to play, several of them at lower tiers, as you might expect, and some are a little bit higher. But again, there are some obvious contenders here. At the lower tiers, I like to play things like the M2 light tank, which is a tier 2 American light tank with its amazing 20mm gun, which can just go through any lightly armoured tier 1 or 2. You do have to load gold to get rid of those pesky T18 tank destroyers, however. I don't actually have a T18, I don't really like playing them, it just does feel a bit cheap. Although, saying that, a lot of these tanks that I am going to mention do feel a bit cheap playing, especially after playing 18,000 odd games. Anyway, M2 light tank, good fun at lower tiers. B1, a recent repurchase for me after watching Aging Jedi's video on the B1. You do have to load gold rounds with it for certain targets, but in a tier 4 game it is very strong, if well angled. The KV1 is a favourite of mine and a favourite of many of yours, I think. Many of you. I like to use the 85mm. Some people like to use the 122 with heat and HE, but it's not really my cup of tea. And then the last one that springs to mind is the T29. The T29 is, without a doubt, one of the most overpowered vehicles in the game in terms of its ability. Well, you could say it's overpowered in terms of the phenomenal turret armor, 279mm in standard thickness, with that huge plug of steel adding another 279mm, which means you're not going to go through the front of the turret anytime soon. Even tier 10s have difficulty going through the front of that turret. If they hit it in the mantle, the sides they can go through, but regardless, from the front it's a very well armoured target, and in hold down positions the only way you can really damage it is if you A, have a very high powered gun, or B, if you have good accuracy and you hit it in the cupola at the back of the turret. The whole armour, of course, is much weaker. The next question comes from Dimulus, otherwise known as Mitsos FS _FS on YouTube. He says, "Well done hitting the 100 subs mark, keep up the good work. Where are you from? Watching from Greece." Dimulus, I am from the UK and I live in the east. I live in a county called Essex. I won't go into any more detail than that. My address is my own, of course. I don't really want to emphasise that at all. But yeah, I live in the east of England. There's your answer. Thank you for asking. The next question, moving on, is from Craig Grant. He says, 108th subscriber dude, my name's Craigie from Reading, UK, but I play on the US server because I am a shift worker and follow workmates after bugging me for ages, almost 4 years ago. Not the greatest player in the world, I have 13,500 battles played with over 53, just over 53% win rate, better than mine. With over 150 tanks in the garage, that's a substantial amount. I would say I love the game. Glad you do. My question to you, I have 2,648 battles in my KV1 with a win rate of 58.91, almost 59%. Is this concealed seal clubbing? And do you have a similar tank that you can't help but just to go out and play? All the best with the channel, dude. Craig. Well, Craig, I answer the second part of your question with Spencer's question. The seal clubbing choice would be the T29 for heavy tanks and the KV1 and all that jazz. But in terms of is it seal clubbing after playing over 2,500 games with almost 59% win rating, yeah. It depends. If you're in a tier 5 match, yes it is, because you're top of the tier, you are likely using the 85mm or, like I said before, the 122mm with the heat or the HE, the heat and HE, and hopefully you don't just spam heat everywhere. It's unnecessary to do so, and sometimes it won't even work anyway. It does seem a bit unfair to newer players, especially those who've just started the game in that week, perhaps. Sometimes you see players who've just played for about a week and they have got to their first tier 5 or the first tier 4 and they're like, ah yes, let's go into a game, let's have some fun, and then they see someone like yourself or like myself or like anyone who's played a substantial number of games in their tier 5 pimped out tank with, you know, possibly premium consumables. I don't say you do use it, but you have equipment, you have a good crew. I imagine after 2,500 battles, over that even, you may well have 5 or 6 possibly skilled crew, depending if you've done crew training in other vehicles like a Churchill 3. But yes, it depends. If you're in a tier 6 and 7 game, no, it isn't seal clubbing as such, because you don't have as effective a machine compared to that in a tier 5 game. Your armor is irrelevant for the most part. T29 again, a Tiger. IS will go through you like butter. The health pool is much lower than that of higher tier vehicles. So a KV1's hit pool I think is 640 hit points, which is a substantial amount, certainly for tier 5. But when you're fighting Tigers, they have 1,500 hit points, which is double that of yourself, and a little bit more. So it depends on the situation. Tier 5, yes, I would agree it's seal clubbing, but if it's a tier 7 game, no. Generally not, unless you just fire exclusively AP and you're playing against people who have played less than 1,000 games. I mean, I imagine you may run XPM, and if you see those people who are generally termed as red players or tomato players supposedly by the community, I don't like that classification. It's just people who are learning the game, or people who are just playing the game for fun. I dislike this elitist nature that a lot of people do. But anyway, like I said, tier 5, yes, it's seal clubbing against new players. However, at tier 7, less so. Thank you for the question, Craig. So the next question is from Team Anime, and basically he asks, how do you play the IS-3 without the top gun? It's quite a struggle. I agree, it is a struggle when you have the IS-3 in a non-upgraded position. Currently, I have the BL9 gun. That is the best gun on the tank. It's a very good tank gun. For the tier, it can be used well in tier 9 games and tier 10 games as well. But when you're fighting tier 6s and 7s, that gun is amazing. However, he has the IS gun at the moment, which I believe is this one here. I will just check. Let's see, IS D25T. Yeah, this is the top IS gun, so I'm going to compare that one anyway. The rate of fire is slightly better on this 122 compared to this one. It has worse pen across the board, same damage, worse accuracy, and the same aim time. So, depending on the tier you're at, if you're in a tier 8 game and you're fighting predominantly tier 7 and 6s, 175 pen is manageable, but I would recommend carrying the 217 pen APCR rounds for especially especially for when you're in tier 9 and 10 games. If you're in a tier 9 and 10 game, do not go charging forward in any tier 8 vehicle, including the IS-3. You have to support your team, you have to support the tier 9 and 10 heavy tanks and the mediums by providing flanking and support fire. Your job is not at the front line. When you're in a tier 8 game though, your stock turret, even though the armor is worse, is still 175mm thick and angled, much like this one. It's not as strong as this turret, of course. This turret is very strong, 250mm thick, with amazing angling going on. You do have to be careful about this hatch here, of course, as well as that on the original turret. The engine is also necessary. Although the stock engine is 650 horsepower, the extra 50 horsepower and 3% less chance of fires is very nice in supporting your attacks. I hope that helps. Basically, you're going to have to slug through it. Maybe if you have the opportunity to free XP your way, or partially free XP your way towards the 44,000 research cost, you definitely need that gun. But be a bit more cautious perhaps, depending on the situation you're in. Thank you for sending the question in, Team Anime. And carrying on with the questions, we have one from Dimas36. He says, "Just found your channel. I like your in-depth analysis in your videos. Definitely will stick around." Thank you very much. That's really good news to hear. I haven't checked all of your World of Warships content, so maybe you've already talked about it, but what are your thoughts on the current state of the game, especially as far as balancing between the different classes is concerned? Greetings from Greece. A lot of Greek people here. Keep up the good work, man. Thank you for your question, Dimas. World of Warships. It's a good game. However, there are things wrong with it, of course. There are balancing issues, certainly. Overall, I do enjoy the game. I enjoy playing the cruisers, the battleships, and the destroyers. I don't really enjoy playing aircraft carriers, not really. I have played them once or twice. They're just a bit finicky for me. There's too much fiddling to do, like you have to send your squadrons here, then you have to move the actual ship as well, and it's too much to concentrate on at once. Maybe I'll get better in the future, but I understand why they put them in. So yeah, and I also understand why they didn't put in submarines, because it would be torture to play that game if there were submarines everywhere, especially in your battleships. Anyhow, in terms of balance, destroyers, some of them need a little bit of balance, especially at the lower tier. The what's it called? The Samson, for instance, it's a tier 2 destroyer. You may have seen the video on it. I do really enjoy playing that vehicle, but in terms of game balance, the torpedoes reload very quickly indeed. A lot of the lower tier Soviet destroyers also reload their torpedoes very quickly. However, they have a very low range, so maybe that's a balancing factor, and they are pretty terrible anyway. I had a game once where I was in the Izyaslav, the tier 4 destroyer, fired all 9 torpedoes into a broadside of a Fuso. All of them hit, and he took about 2/3 of his health off, and then he killed me. So, torpedoes are not the best for those Soviets at the lower tiers anyway. The Japanese Minkaze has been nerfed in terms of its so-called top torpedoes. This was a while ago, have been removed, but not many players played with those top torpedoes because they're much slower than the 7-kilometer fast torpedoes that everyone used anyway. That destroyer may need a bit more balancing in terms of the reload, but generally it's quite hard to balance that. I don't really have a gripe with destroyers that much anyway. Sometimes it's a little annoying, but sometimes it's, well, most of the time it's fine. The cruisers, some of them have such a stupid rate of fire, and when you're playing a battleship it's very hard to do anything about it. I know a 305mm gun is going to reload a lot more slowly than that of a 120 to 152mm gun, but regardless, getting set on fire again and again and again when you're playing battleships is not fun. They may need to tweak that a little bit. I'm not sure if they're going to, but sometimes once you've played battleships for a while, you're like, well, I'm just going to sit at the back of the map, and then people moan because you sat at the back of the map, but you don't want to go forward because you don't want to get set on fire. So it's a little hard to balance there. Battleships as well are horrendously inaccurate, and sometimes it's so frustrating because you aim your shots perfectly 10 seconds in advance of an enemy that's going at 30 knots, and you know the distance and you calibrate all of that, and all of your shells fire, and you fire like a full broadside 12 shells from a Fuso Tier 6 Japanese battleship, and one of them hits for 1,000 damage, and you're like, where did the others go? They go in front, they go behind, they miss completely, they hit an island about 2 kilometers away, you know, all that kind of jazz. So battleships maybe need a bit more of a tweak. They did have a tweak in terms of their very, very close range firepower with the primary armament. My voice is going. Sorry about that. My voice is going there. Their primary armament was 3 kilometers. At 3 kilometers even. Had a buff to the accuracy. However, the secondary armament, that's the second point, is completely useless in some ships. Some ships don't have many secondary guns, especially the lower tier, fully upgraded American battleships like the Wyoming and the New York, and the South Carolina, but no one talks about the South Carolina because it's bad. But the secondary armament could be improved in terms of its accuracy or perhaps damage. Those are my thoughts so far. Aircraft carriers are annoying. They some of the torpedoes, they don't do a huge amount of damage compared to the ones on the ship launched ones, but maybe they could balance them in some way. I'm not really sure how. Maybe have less aircraft overall, but that would make it pretty boring when you have your aircraft all shot down. The Cleveland is pretty powerful. You may have seen a video I put up yesterday. It's a good ship to play, of course, but the AA, you don't want to go anywhere near those things. So there are things I would tweak, mostly battleship related, but thank you for your question, Dennis. 36. And now time for a huge set of questions from Funreal. Okay, Funreal, let's see what you have to say. Question: do you plan on doing live streams and or subscriber events? For example, TeamSpeak while playing games in click platoons. Do you plan on opening a clan in World of Tanks like any other big YouTubers? And thirdly, am I hungry? And he is from Germany and he lives near Stuttgart. Keep up the good work and you'll get way more than 100. Well, maybe not. Well, we shall see. Anyway, take care. Right, Funreal. Firstly, do I plan on doing live streams and or subscriber events? No. I don't plan on doing live streams because I can't. My upload speed is very bad. I get around a good time 1.7 upload. That's like the best I've ever seen ever. Megabyte upload, and my normal upload speed is 1 megabyte a second. To live stream at 720p, I would need at least 3.5 megabytes a second, consistent, no drops, no going down to 1 megabyte, then going back up to 3.5. It would be a horrible experience for both me and yourselves listening and watching. For a 1080p stream, I'd need about 5 to 6 megabytes a second upload, and right now where I live in, well, not a really rural area, but I live in a area which hasn't got the best internet, let's just say that. So I have to upload my videos in advance during the night, and therefore live streaming is currently out of the question. Perhaps in the future if I do get better internet and things like that. Do you plan on opening a clan? Again, no. At the moment, it's not really in my interest to do so. I have no idea what I would call it anyway. I mean, Geo sounds stupid to me as a clan name, or something relating to Geogen anyway. But perhaps in the future, I have to think about it some more. But currently, right now, No, it's not in my interest. Am I hungry? Yes. I'm always hungry. No, well, I haven't had any lunch yet, so I will be having some lunch after I finish recording this Q&A session. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for your kind words about the 100 or game more than 100. Thank you. So we're coming to the end of the questions now. This is the penultimate question, but this is from Thomas Briscani. I may have butchered your surname, but Thomas. Hi Geogen, I'm Thomas from Italy, and my question for you is, who inspired you to start YouTube? Well, that is a very interesting question. I have to go back to 2008 here, and this is obviously several years ago now. But I was at secondary school, and I was probably just talking with my friends one day, and I came into school talking with my friends, and then one of them said to me, "Oh, have you been on YouTube?" And I'm like, what's YouTube at the time? I'm like, what do you mean? What's YouTube? And oh yeah, it's this really cool site where people upload videos and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And somebody said to me, "Oh, have you heard of the Yogscast?" And I said, "No, because I've not heard of YouTube until just about 5 seconds ago." Come on, man. And basically, the Yogscast, where they were, well, still are, a very prominent group on YouTube, and they did a lot of Minecraft videos. I myself have played a lot of Minecraft, but it's not a thing I'm going to make videos on. I don't plan to anyway, and I don't think any of you here are Minecraft fans, so there's no point of doing that. Although you may well be, but if you want Minecraft, go to them. I mean, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, and they did a lot of Minecraft videos, and now they do all kinds of things. I still do Minecraft and stuff. But anyway, the co-founder of the original channel, a man called Lewis Brindley, he had something to say which kind of struck me in the podcast that they did a long time ago, back in 2008 kind of time, 2009, 2010. And he said, "I started watching YouTube videos and saw a lot of people were doing them and doing them pretty badly." And he said that if you can do something better, if you think you can do something better, you usually can. So I've seen a lot of World of Tanks players, a lot of World of Tanks YouTubers, and there's a lot of good ones out there. There's a lot of good content. Jingles does a lot of good content. Aging Jedi does a lot of good content. Fiora does a lot of good content. Striker, all these kind of people do a lot of good content. However, there are things I dislike about the way people do this content and the way they talk about various players in the game. As I alluded to earlier, I dislike this elitist nature of the game. People with 1900 efficiency are not better people / players than those of 1400 efficiency. It's just numbers in the end. You may well be better according to statistics, according to some maths conducted by an algorithm, but that doesn't make you better than anyone else playing the game. That is what frustrates me about certain people who play and put up YouTube videos of this. There's been certain incidents of certain videos I've watched where I've gone, that is not what you should be saying about that. For instance, the use of the word lesser players I heard in a couple of videos, and that is just derogatory, and I will unsubscribe. I've unsubscribed from that channel anyway. But yeah, so the Yogscast, they influenced me in terms of doing something better, doing your own opinion on something. I like that style. There are people such as Have Films. Again, they are part of the Yogscast now. Before they weren't. I still like Have Films. I like their production standards. They are very creative people, certainly. So yeah, those are two of my influences. They have fun in what they do and such. So yeah, those two definitely. There are others, of course. I guess you could say Jingles. He definitely is an inspiration to a lot of people in terms of trying to make videos online, and I do respect Jingles. There are things he said in the past where I think, you idiot, but there are things I say that a lot of you may think, oh, what an idiot. So I can't really slag him off too much. Yeah, he's been an influence, certainly. He has a lot of fun doing what he does. However, he does have a lot of problems, obviously, with his size and the popularity, and maybe that'll be a thing I mean, if I ever get to that size, it'll be phenomenal, but I highly doubt that at this stage. 111 of you are here, and I really appreciate that, but I doubt that. So those three, definitely. There are more, but I would say those. Thank you for your question, Thomas. The actual penultimate question, which is this one, I almost forgot about this one, is from Skoen, and he asks quite simply, will you accept my friend request? I'll expand this to, will you accept friend requests from everyone? And he's from Hungary, or Hungary as he writes. I assume he means Hungary. Although, in different places it's referred to as different things, I have read, I think. Anyway, will you accept friend requests, or my friend request? Simply, I won't. The reason is, it's not because, no, I don't like you. I'm not going to add you because I don't like you. It's not that. I like everyone here. Everyone here is fantastic. But I won't be adding people simply because, imagine when, or if, I can't say when because it's like, oh, I expect this to happen. But if I ever get to a sizable amount, say 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, maybe. If I ever get that high, imagine the amount of people sending me friend requests. It's not going to be viable. So simply, I'd be unfair to those people in the future if I accepted friend requests from now, and then those people in the future would say, oh, but you added those people in the past, so there you go. I'm afraid I can't do that, but thank you for your question anyway. I hope people aren't disappointed at that, but please understand that's what I feel on the subject. It's not because I don't dislike any of you, okay? Alright, now moving on to the final question. Okay, so here we are at the final question. If I've missed any other questions, I'm sorry. I will go through it again and have a look if I did miss any questions. But the final question is from Acton Panzer. He says, and sorry if I'm real for probably messing up the pronunciation of Acton. Anyway, he says, nice to see how RT is used in armed warfare. I haven't seen any videos on that. My question is, do you find using RT in armed warfare very different from World of Tanks? I'm from Wales, UK. Thank you for the question, Acton Panzer. And simply put, yes, it's different in terms of several factors. The first and most important of which is it's actually fun to play. The vehicle's reloads are, for the artillery, are much faster than that of generic artillery in World of Tanks. The exception to the rule would be the FV4202 and FV4202, that's a tier 10 medium tank, the FV304, but the lower tier British artillery as well generally have faster fire rates than most of the artillery in the game for World of Tanks. But anyway, things like the M109, the Gorostoika, the Atakasia, I think it's called, the PZH-2000, all that kind of jazz, or Panzerhaubitze, again, butchering German, sorry if I'm real, but, and any other German listeners out there, but anyway, the damage output for the artillery is much less so than that of World of Tanks. There are no instances of me being hit for 1800 damage and killed instantly, as has happened in tier 9 and 10 games. I got hit in the engine deck of an E50 with premium HE, I might add, in one of my recent games, and I left the computer after that. Not in rage, I didn't rage at the computer, but I just went, well, I'm gonna stop for now. The artillery as well aims a lot faster. There have been instances of penetrations where it says HE pen, but it only does around 400 damage with the M109, as opposed to 1,000 or more. So yes, artillery in armored warfare, much better system than World of Tanks. That's why the developers Wargaming have been looking at armored warfare and basically seeing if they can implement some form of system such as Armored Warfare's into their own game in the future. That's what I've heard. I don't know when that's coming. I don't know if that's actually confirmed, but that's what I've heard. So yes, Armored Warfare, if you have it installed, as it's open beta and it's free to play, then I would recommend picking up an artillery. They start at tier 4 and there's only 6 in the game right now. 3 in Shiskin's list of tanks or dealer, and 3 in Wolfie's list of and dealer of tanks. So yeah, that is the end of the questions. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for sending them in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being great. And thank you for everyone else who put a comment on the video but didn't necessarily have a question. I know people like Panzerville put a comment, Striker put a comment, Mark put a comment, and Fiora put a comment as well. There were others as well. Ollie, of course, he put a comment too. But yes, thank you everyone for putting comments down, putting your thoughts to paper, or on screen as it were. And as always, I have been Geogen. This has been the Q&A video, and I'll see you chaps and chapettes in the next one.